Welcome everyone to History Gone Wilder, part of How History Will Travel. I'm your host, the Wilder historian, Dr. Lucas Wilder, and last time the Battle of Ezra Church began with Stephen D. Lee's Corps attacking the 15th Union Corps under John Logan. Now we join Lee as he keeps up the pressure against the Union position around Ezra Church. If you like what I do, please consider subscribing to the channel if you haven't done so already, join the Patreon page, and purchase something from the Teespring store or Etsy shop. Every little bit helps. Thank you. Thus far in John C. Brown's attack against John Logan's 15th Corps, the Confederates had been halted in their attacks, but Brown still had one more brigade in reserve under Arthur Manigault, and a brigade on the extreme left under William Brantley that had yet to become engaged because it had much further to march than the other brigades. Brantley was born in Alabama, but moved to Mississippi as a child. He became a lawyer in that state and participated in the Mississippi Secession Convention in early 1861. When Mississippi called for troops, he enlisted in the 29th Mississippi Infantry, taking part in every major engagement that the Army of Tennessee was involved in, being wounded at Shiloh and Stone's River. He now commanded a brigade of 3 Mississippi regiments, 2 of which were consolidated regiments. Brantley's regiments were on a collision course with a single regiment from Joseph Lightburn's brigade. Lightburn was a Pennsylvanian by birth, but moved to what became West Virginia as a child. He and his family didn't live far from Thomas Stonewall Jackson. Jackson and Lightburn became friends in their youth. Lightburn enlisted in the United States Army and fought in the Mexican-American War. After being discharged from the Army, he became a minister. When the Civil War broke out, he joined a Union Virginia regiment and served under McClellan in the Western Virginia Campaign. Soon he was transferred to the Army of the Tennessee and Mississippi, taking part in the Vicksburg Campaign, then joined that army as it defeated Confederate forces around Chattanooga. He performed great service during the Atlanta Campaign and even commanded a division when his division commander Morgan Smith took command of the corps temporarily. Lightburn believed that there was mostly cavalry in his front and one regiment could handle the horsemen. It came as a shock when the 53rd Ohio began getting pressed by Brantley's brigade, and the commander of that regiment sent word to Lightburn to send reinforcements. Lightburn sent the 47th Ohio, but those 2 regiments took heavy punishment from the Mississippians, getting overwhelmed by the number of rebels. When the 53rd called for more reinforcements, Morgan Smith, the division commander, overheard the request and sent the messenger back, stating that only cavalry was in their front, to not be alarmed. Soon Brantley's men surged forward as the 54th Ohio came up to add weight to the Union line. The Buckeyes were fighting a withdrawal and fell back on the 37th Ohio and the 127th Illinois from James Martin's brigade. When the Confederates began to batter the Federal line, Major Charles Hipp of the 37th Ohio turned to one of his superiors, Wells Jones, and asked, "What shall I do?" Jones responded, "Fight like the devil." Hipp wouldn't have much opportunity to fight like the devil. A Confederate bullet hit him in the chest, but he remained mounted on his horse. Soon another bullet hit him in his left arm, knocking him off his mount. A German immigrant and flag bearer of the 37th Ohio named Ernst Torgler handed his flag to a comrade and ran into the middle of the storm of bullets to save Hipp, who would lose the arm. After the war, Torgler would receive the Medal of Honor for his actions. The Mississippians broke the Union line and now held the dominant feature on the battlefield. It would become known as Battle Hill. But, like Jack Logan, wouldn't stand for the rebels to dominate the position on his right flank. He personally led the 6th Iowa and 40th Illinois to push the rebels off their perch. A young man, just 15 years old, named Robinson Murphy, served as one of Martin's orderlies, and it was he who guided the fresh regiments to the position, having his horse shot out from under him in the process. After the war, the young man would receive the Medal of Honor for his bravery. Despite the reinforcements, Brantley's men were too stubborn to be moved so easily. 2 more Union regiments were coming to the field, though. The 12th Wisconsin and 31st Illinois came up on the right of the 40th Illinois to add their weight to the rallying Union troops. As those troops came up on the Union right, Jacob Sharp's Mississippians couldn't withstand the beating given to them by the Federals in their front and fell back. Now Brantley's men didn't have protection on their right flank. Plus, the 12th Wisconsin threatened their left. Brantley barely took 1,000 men into combat, if that. Many had been killed or wounded. Plus, many shirked their duties, as indicated by his report. He wrote, "Being greatly weakened by the killed and wounded, and the innumerable cases of utter exhaustion among the best of my command, as well as by the absence of a goodly number who had no legitimate excuse, I was unable to hold the works. The Mississippians withdrew from the hill they had captured only a few moments before. Brown had only one brigade left in his division that hadn't been engaged, that under Arthur Manigault. Manigault claimed that both his division commander Brown and his corps commander Lee lied to him about the attack. They told him that he wouldn't encounter any heavy enemy presence on the height in front of him. Manigault wrote, "I never yet have been able to explain to myself how it was that those officers so unblushingly made such a statement, knowing as they must have known that it was totally incorrect." As Manigault's men moved out, the 10th South Carolina lagged behind, losing 30 men in the clearing. Lee rode up to the color bearer, grabbed the flag, and began to lead the regiment through the open field. Lieutenant Colonel Irvin Walker of that regiment rode forward, grabbed the flag from Lee, and began leading his regiment. Lee rode off, and a bullet wounded Walker in the neck. The 10th South Carolina wouldn't attack with the rest of the brigade. The Confederates rushed forward toward Martin's line. One Federal soldier wrote of the attack. Again, the well-known yell, the pop-popping of the preliminary shots, the magnificent oncoming of proud lines from behind the opposite ridge, with flag-bearers seeming to dance out defiantly in their front. To the right of Manigault's line was the brigade of Harry Toulmin. Toulmin saw his comrades advancing and joined in the attack. They hit the Union line with great force. Manigault's troops opened up a withering fire against the Federals, but Toulmin's Alabamians surged into the Union position. The 50th, 22nd, and 19th Alabama captured the enemy works, driving multiple regiments away. Logan, still behind the Union lines, encouraging his men, saw the line break and physically stopped the retreating blue troops, turning them around and sending them back into the fight. At one point, he grabbed the flag of one regiment and led them back toward the Alabamians. The scattered Union regiments regained the lost works and sent the Alabamians back. Manigault's brigade also fell back, unable to capture any works. In about 45 minutes of fighting, Brown launched 3 attacks against Logan's line, only to be thrown back each time, losing 800 men, including 9 brigade and regimental commanders. Lee would continue his assaults, though. Another division, this one under Henry Clayton, was finally making it to the field, but unfortunately for Lee and Brown, it would arrive too late to attack in concert with Brown's division. It would have to attack alone.